I guess we will go ahead and get started. We might have some more people joining us, but that's all right. Welcome everyone who is on Zoom. Probably we're just going to keep up so you can see the screen, the PowerPoint. I'm Jenny McGee, and I'm an instructional designer in the e-learning division here at Camden County College. And we're going to kind of keep this casual today. So if you've got any questions or comments at any point in time, just feel free to pipe up. The ones that are here, you can raise your hand. If you're on Zoom, I probably won't see if you use the raise your hand function. So just feel free to unmute yourself and just pipe up if you've got a question or a comment. But if you can just keep yourselves muted if you're not speaking, so that way we don't have any background noise. So this is our Managing Our Online Instructor Workload webinar. And so basically today we're going to be just going over some ideas. I'm going to have you share some thoughts and ideas of your own as well about how we can keep ourselves from looking like the guy on the screen who's having his life-work balance being a little out of whack with too much time spending doing online teaching activities. So hopefully you'll get some kind of ideas out of this. And like I said, I'll be happy for all of you to share any ideas that you might have of things that have worked for you. All right, so I want to start just by getting some input on your experience. So what has been, in your experience teaching online, the thing that has been the most difficult part as far as time management? Does anybody have anything that they want to share?
Getting them to actually read your emails and pay attention to all your stuff.
Okay. Getting them to pay attention and read your emails. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So we'll talk about the different tasks and we'll talk about some ways that we can hopefully make ourselves more efficient so that we're not using as much time. So online teaching tasks can pretty much be broken down into 4 different categories. So course design is going to be, the bulk of that's going to be done prior to the start of the semester. And then during the semester, you're going to have administrative tasks. That's going to be setting up groups in Canvas, answering emails, that kind of thing. Facilitative tasks, participating in discussions, doing group chats, Zoom meetings, that type of thing, creating that instructor presence. And then evaluative, course grading and providing feedback to students. And also a component of that is receiving evaluations from students and implementing that into your teaching. So to start off, we want, hopefully, in a perfect world, we'd always have months ahead of time before we're teaching an online course. Well, we know that that's not always the case, but hopefully you will have some time that you can plan ahead when you know that you're teaching a new online class. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is ways that we can design a class that will help us to prevent those problems and confusion and technology issues before they occur. Because I know some instructors spend a lot of time during the semester kind of putting out fires and answering a lot of questions. And we can help prevent that by setting up a course that is easy for students to navigate and that is consistent. So ideally, I know sometimes people get assigned a course 2 days before class, but ideally we want to have the course completed prior to the start of the semester. If you're trying to do the course design and all those other elements that happen while the course is ongoing, it's going to be very overwhelming to try to do all of that at once. So we want as much as possible to have the course designed before the semester starts. Another important thing, when possible, is to open the course a week in advance. And that doesn't mean that you have to have all your assignments and modules and everything open a week in advance, but at least the orientation module. And this really helps students to know what the technology requirements are so that it's not too late for them to drop the class if there's no possible way they can meet those technology requirements, or they might need to go and get a laptop or a webcam or something. We don't want to spring that on them after the course has already started. This will also give them a chance to look at the syllabus, to get their books, to figure out how to access their first day books. So this really can help all of those emails that you get at the beginning of the semester with questions. So we also encourage you to use us. So in e-learning, we are happy to work with you. If you are starting a brand new course, if you are wanting to revamp a course or tweak it, or you just want us to look at it and see what suggestions we might have for you, just let us know. But give us a little bit of time. So if you're letting us know, August 31st, that's probably not going to be enough time for the fall semester. Also, if you need help with pairing your texts, let us know or let your publisher support know. And if you're not sure who that is, we can help you with that as well. But again, that's going to have to be done prior to the start of the semester. So let's talk a little bit about course design. So when you are designing a course, it really works well at the beginning to kind of put yourself in the role of the learner. So that could be a little difficult to do because sometimes, you're the subject matter expert, you know all the answers. And so it can be a little difficult to just pretend like you're somebody that is not used to learning online. But we want to make sure that we're letting them use the majority of their mental bandwidth to learn the content that you're teaching, not trying to figure out your online course. Accessibility is very important too, and this could be and has been a whole separate webinar. But we have a lot of resources in the Canvas Faculty Hub about accessibility. So making sure that your videos are captioned, that you have not scanned documents that won't be accessible with a screen reader, those types of things. So keeping that in mind as you're designing is a lot easier than trying to go back and fix things that aren't accessible. Having a layperson look at your course, and by that I mean somebody that is not an online instructor and also is not a subject matter expert in your subject. So maybe a friend or somebody, have them look at your orientation module and your assignments and your course layout and give you feedback and let you know what would be confusing to them if they were a student. And again, consistency really helps cut down on questions. So as much as you can have things due the same day each week, or tests are going to be every other module or whatever works for you, but it's just really going to help cut down on those questions. So when you're first looking at a course and you're wanting to design it, it's best to plan it out first. So this could be done on paper. It could be done probably on a document, a Word document, or Google Doc or something. There are a lot of different templates online. This is one that I found. And I can send you if you need one. There's also plenty that you could just find from different colleges have this type of information online. And starting with your student learning objectives. So we're doing backward design, what they need to know. And then we're going from there. How are we going to design our course so that they're meeting those student learning objectives? Breaking it down, and you can see how this particular template has the learned SLOs for each module, and it maps the content and the assignments and activities to each of those learning objectives. So we really want to keep those in mind, excuse me, as we're designing the course. To make this easier, my colleague Rose Donardo has created this standardized course template. And this is based on the Quality Matters guidelines. And so we have this available for anybody that wants it. You just can email us and we'll be happy to put it in your Canvas account. And so this is the course homepage. You don't have to use or keep anything that's in here. You're welcome to tweak it and modify it as you need, but it's got in the modules, it's got all the modules in there. It has placeholders for all of the different types of content, materials, videos, activities, all of those types of things. So kind of is a little bit less overwhelming than just starting with a completely blank course shell. So if you want that, elearning@camdencc.edu, we'll be happy to give that to you. So moving on, so we want to design the course around what works for you. So if you are not wanting to answer a bunch of emails on a Saturday night, maybe don't have your coursework due Saturday night for the week. Maybe have your modules end on a Monday or Tuesday. I usually recommend having your coursework due in the middle of the week because students are going to be contacting you more, emailing you more when the work is due than they are at the beginning of the week. So cut yourself a break and make it convenient for you. I know I've said this consistently, but make your course consistent. It helps for students to be able to find things. We recommend rolling out your modules weekly. So I know some instructors might want to let students work a little bit ahead, but it really works best to kind of keep everyone together. It'll help you as well so that you're not answering questions about work that most of the students aren't even on yet. And it also makes it, you never know when you might need to add an extra review in for something, or a current event happens that really fits in and you really want to add that to a module. But if you've got students that have already done the work for that module, then you really can't go back and add things. So it works well to roll out the modules weekly, and you can set that in Canvas. Consider limiting the required discussions. Discussions are so important, but it's not necessarily to have one every week. So I know instructors think, well, every week we've got to have this discussion. If it's something that's just kind of busy work, it's probably better, you'll be doing yourself a favor and your students a favor to just get rid of it, because you got to grade it. And if it's not something that really connected with the objectives and had a strong purpose, then it's not really something that's worth your time or your students' time. So it's okay to just have 5 really strong discussions throughout the course of a semester, instead of having 12 that are kind of okay. And then consider, when you're looking at your assignments, think about what maybe you could use as group work. Students don't love group work, but if there are assignments that kind of lend themselves to that format, that can really help you cut down on grading time, because then you're cutting down the number of projects or assignments that you have to grade if every group is just doing one submission. All right, so Commons. Has anyone in here used Commons before in Canvas? Okay, got a couple shaking heads and a couple nods. And sometimes I forget that it's there too, but Commons, if you, it's right down here on the left-hand side of your screen in Canvas toward the bottom. The first time you click on it, it'll make you authorize the use. And then Commons is a place where Canvas users all over the world can upload and share their Canvas content. And you can find all kinds of things in here. So if you are creating something from scratch, creating a new course, or even if you're wanting to tweak your new one, I just did a search. This is a screenshot of the search that I did for just on a homepage. And you can filter, so I filtered it so that it's just undergraduate results, because you'll get like kindergarten and first grade stuff that's probably not all that useful to you. So you can put in your terms, and then you can just download any of this stuff, import it into a class. You can modify it as needed. So save yourself some time, look and see what they have before you go and start everything from scratch. It might end up saving you some time. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our syllabus, because we know this is, of course, important. So I mentioned technology requirements. It's very important. If you need us to look over and make sure that what you have for technology requirements is accurate, you can. So we can make sure that you're letting students know ahead of time what they need. Be explicit for turnaround time. For email, inbox messages, let them know, if you email me, it's going to be 24 hours. Weekends, it's going to be longer, and then do your best to stick to that. as well as with grading, letting them know how long it's gonna take you. They'd rather know upfront, and if you're being realistic with them, then you're managing their expectations from the beginning. It's also important to state how you prefer to be contacted, because that can cut down on confusion too. So there's the Canvas inbox, there's email, either of those ways, however you prefer, but let students know. And then if anyone has not noticed, on the left-hand side of your Canvas course, there is a syllabus tab. And so you can just put a link to a document that has your syllabus. That's what this says. If you click on the syllabus tab and click edit, you'll see a screen that looks like that. And you could either copy and paste your whole syllabus in there. You could put a link to a PDF or a Word doc. But the nice thing is this show course summary down at the bottom, that box, if you check that, it will put all of your assignments in chronological order by due date, and they're clickable. So it keeps you from having to go in every semester and change specific due dates for specific assignments. Just make sure that you delete or unpublish any assignments you're not using, because if they're published, even if they don't have a due date, they're going to show up at the bottom of the list, and students will click on them and will email you and ask about them because it happens. All right, so our orientation module, this is really important to have a robust orientation module for students. So orientation activities that can help reduce the individual questions. A welcome video that kind of maybe 5 minutes long, introduces yourself, maybe goes over the syllabus, goes over some frequently asked questions. I'm a big proponent of doing a syllabus quiz. So requiring they get worth some points, require students to read over the syllabus in order to answer any questions that are about the syllabus. You could use that as your Respondus Lockdown Browser practice quiz if you use that in your class. Kind of kill two birds with one stone. Providing tech support information is very important. So you want to make sure that you provide, you can put our email address, eLearning, Canvas support as well. I would recommend telling them that that help icon is there in the bottom left corner if they need it. So they can get the Canvas support number and the chat link if they need it. And also, if you do use publisher materials, so you use First Day or you have online course materials, provide that tech support information too. And please, please, please put birthday course material directions in your course. I send out to anybody that teaches a First Day class, I send out directions at the beginning of before the semester starts that you can use, or if you have your own, feel free. But please don't just put that in there because students have no idea how to access their book if you don't give them directions. You can provide a link to our Canvas training for students video. It should always, pretty much always in an announcement at the top of their dashboard anyway, because we send out announcements at the beginning of every session. But it doesn't hurt to have it in there because they might not have seen it at the top of their dashboard. Again, if you do use Respondus Lockdown Browser, please do a practice quiz before the first graded test. This will eliminate so many of those last minute issues and you having to reopen the test for a bunch of students that weren't able to do it. If you do it like well in advance of your actual first exam, it will really help to work out all the kinks before the actual first exam. A frequently asked questions page, if you've been teaching the course for a little bit and you know some things that have come up repeatedly. And then just to mention tutoring. So in Canvas now, in every course, there is a tutoring link on the left-hand side, and students can schedule in-person tutoring as well as online tutoring. We use Thinking Storm now, and they have online tutors that students can sign up for. There may be, I think, is it still 5 hours? Yes. It's currently 5 hours for a semester per student. So you might want to let them know that just so they don't like immediately use up all their time to kind of use their time wisely. But this helps eliminate some questions too, if you can easily direct them right to tutoring. All right, so scheduling. One of the articles that I read in preparing for this suggested setting aside an hour every weekday morning to answer student emails. Probably it won't take you an hour every morning. I mean, it might, depending on how many classes you're teaching. But at least you have that time blocked out so that you know from this time to this time I'm answering emails. And that way it keeps from, having like 89 messages in your inbox that you have to get to if you let it go for a little while. We talked about being transparent about the time frames for responses and set boundaries for yourself. So if you're the kind of person that I have been at times where I'm constantly checking my phone and seeing emails, I know all of us in e-learning have been like that in the past. You need to set boundaries. So maybe you say, I'm not doing anything on Sundays for my online class, or I'm not answering any emails after 7 p.m. If you're that type of person that kind of, you just get sucked in, because when you're teaching online, you could really do the work from any time that you want to, but that can also sort of snowball to where you're doing it constantly. All right, so let's talk a little bit about grading. Because grading, I know, is something that, especially depending on what topic you teach, can take up a lot of time. So hopefully a little bit of tips, and then I'm going to ask you guys to kind of share if you have any great ideas as well. So one thing is, you'll probably notice when you're grading, and I noticed this in my online class, where you type feedback to somebody, you go to the next person and you're like, oh, they did the exact same thing, they need that same feedback over and over again. So one suggestion would be to have a Word document with your common feedback and just copy and paste it into there, and then you can just have that document up and copy and paste into your comment field. Some instructors even save it from semester to semester if they know it's something that they have to continually tell students, just to save yourself a little bit of time. Also, in SpeedGrader, there are the two little icons that I circled. So the first one here that looks like the little play button, if you didn't know, you can use that to record your voice. So you could do voice comments. You also actually could record a video of yourself with feedback, and it'll put it right there in that feedback box for students. The second one that I circled is a speech to text button. So if it's easier for you to talk than type, you can just speak your feedback. It'll put it right in the box for you. You can edit it as needed and then click submit. So both of those can maybe save a little bit of time with the grading. Another idea that will probably work better for some subjects than others, but you can do peer reviews. And so this could be maybe a first draft submission, have the students review each other's work. And I would obviously, I would provide a checklist or a rubric or something for them to go by, but this can really help to sort of eliminate some of those easy things that you might have to remind students about a lot if they're going through other people's work with a checklist. And you can leave it anonymous for peer reviews if you're concerned about, students not being honest with each other. You can make it anonymous. You can read all of the reviews as needed, and you could actually have them automatically assigned. As soon as a student submits their work, they can get a peer review assigned. So some instructors like this for kind of helping to get rid of some of those very more obvious things that students might do, so that when they do turn it in for grading by the instructor, it's a higher quality piece of work. Another thing that I don't see used a ton that is really helpful is rubrics. So you can create rubrics in Canvas, and there's a tutorial on this. All of these things, there's tutorials in the Canvas Faculty Hub, but we're here if you need it too. But you can create rubrics, and they're interactive. So when you're in SpeedGrader, if you have attached a rubric to an assignment, It's going to show up just like that. That's a screenshot from SpeedGrader. It'll be on the right-hand side, and their submission will be on the left. And you can just click on the box. It will automatically put the points over on the right, add them up, and then it will assign those points as their grade. So this can be a real time saver as grading. It takes a little bit of time up front, but actually there are a lot of rubrics in Commons as well. So if you just do a search for like discussions rubric, you can attach these to discussions also, which can make discussions a lot easier to grade. So this is something I think could save a lot of time. And again, if you have questions about building a rubric, you can always email me. I'll be happy to help you. And there are some other settings for grading. So that can help save some time. So if you click on the grades tab in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a gear. And if you click on that gear, that'll take you to the gradebook settings. So this is one of them under late policies. So you can check the box up there to automatically apply a grade for missing submissions. Canvas does not automatically do that unless you check this box. So if you have students that have work that's missing that you haven't graded, they might have an inflated idea of what they're graded because it's not factoring in those zeros. Now, one word of caution, for whatever reason, under grade for missing submissions, it has 100% by default, which I'm pretty sure is not what you would want. So just make sure that you change that to 0%, which makes a lot more sense. You can also apply a deduction to late submissions and it'll automatically, so you could have, 5% off a day or whatever, and you can set up a floor so that they still do get some kind of credit even if it's late. All right. So I don't know why I put this. This was just the first example I found, but not that you could really read it. But automated feedback is really helpful, especially for things that you see repeatedly or, misconceptions or missed questions. In the quiz, this is only in quizzes or new quizzes. You can, underneath each question, there's a little box and you can put feedback in there for students. You could also even put a video of yourself explaining something. You could put links that will help them, guide them to something that's going to explain the concept, or just sort of a little description. So it takes a little bit more time up front, but it provides that feedback so that students will understand why they got it wrong and hopefully get it correct the next time. So another thing for grading in SpeedGrader, you also do have annotation tools in SpeedGrader. And these only work if you have the students upload a file. So if you have the students do a text box submission, you will not have the annotation tools. I'm not sure why, but it only really works for file uploads. So one of the things that another instructional designer suggested, that if you just mark everything up, right, then the students just kind of look at it, they see a bunch of red, they might move on. Using minimal marking, so kind of if you're seeing like they don't have any commas or they missed out a lot of commas, putting a few of them in and then directing them to where they can find more information about commas, like look at module 3, or you could put a link to a document and then have them fix the rest of them. And that makes them a part of the revision process, and it makes your life a little easier because you're not having to go through and do all of that yourself. All right, so online teaching, online courses are an iterative process. So they're never done. We never say like, oh, this is the perfect course, I'm never going to touch it again, because technology changes, things change. There's always ways that we can improve. And so it's a good idea to keep notes throughout the semester on what worked well, what didn't work, things that you might like to change. And something that I have done is put headers directly in the module. So I had a test that I need to fix the question, and I just put a text header right in the module so that when I go to replicate it again for the fall, I'll see that and know that I need to fix question 2 and reword question 1. Because you really, especially with quizzes, you don't want to mess with them. If it's like actually in your class, going in and fixing it can just cause all kinds of problems. So it's better to wait until you duplicate it into a new class and then fix it. And I always think that I'll remember things. Of course, I'm not gonna remember that if I don't make a note to myself, so. And you'll note that it's not published, so the students wouldn't see it. Here's where you can use evaluation. So you can have students fill out an evaluation halfway through the semester, just kind of take the temperature, see what's working, what's difficult, what are things that you are confused about, and then at the end of the semester, and then use those to inform your future instruction. So if there's certain things that you're seeing over and over again that they might need to be changed in the future. And then keep your eye out for work examples that you can ask permission to use in the future. So it's helpful for students, especially at the beginning of a semester, with things like discussions, to have an idea of what you're looking for and to have an idea of what a piece of work looks like. And instead of trying to create that yourself, ask for permission. Those students are very proud and happy to offer, yeah, absolutely, you can use my paper because, you know, it's a compliment. So then you can use that in future classes. So communications and feedback. If you didn't know, you can schedule announcements ahead of time. So if you use announcements in your class, I know a couple of instructors that set up, I think Rose sets up her announcements at the beginning before the semester even starts for, you know, projects, when their speech is due, those types of things that you know are coming up. And you can go in and just click that delay posting checkbox, and then you can put a date in and then just save it and forget it, and it'll go out when it's time. You can also, a good idea, let students know what weeks are going to take more time, and you could put that in as a header for a module. Sometimes you end up with a module that's extra heavy, and it's nice to let students know this one's going to be a little bit more intensive so that they can plan accordingly for that amount of work. So for communication and feedback, another thing that I like to do in my class is a weekly video. So it's a screenshot. I just do like a week in review video. So beginning of week 4, the first thing they would see is kind of a recap of week 3. So you can pull up a quiz, go over questions that a lot of students missed, kind of talk about anything that needed to be corrected or re-explained. I also like to mention discussions. So certain posts that students might have made, I would mention them by name and say, you know, Mark said whatever, and just kind of give them a little shout out. And kind of along those same lines, if you reply to students, just once a semester, each student in a discussion specifically. And some you'll probably do more. I noted some of them, it was hard to find a good discussion post that some of them made to reply to. But I just kind of kept track and said, yep, I responded to this one, I responded to this one. Just helps to create that teacher presence. They know that you are there and that you are actually reading what they're writing. One thing that I was reading said, try to post to each discussion every day that it's going, which might be a little more than necessary. But you also want to give students a chance. So when there is a discussion going, if you see something that a student has a question or there's, you know, something you feel like you need to reply to, maybe give it a little time, maybe give it 24 hours to give other students a chance to come in and answer. And it can save you time. And then it also sort of helps further the conversation, because sometimes once we come in there and comment, then that sort of shuts the discussion down. One thing that can really save time, and these are used in my class, really didn't have much activity in it, but I've actually taken classes as a college student where there was like an open course Q&A discussion. Usually in the orientation module, it's open all semester, it's not graded, and it's just if students have any questions about the content or anything else. And it can help because a lot of times more than one student has the same question. And if you are able to just answer it once, or another student can answer it for them, then that cuts down on the amount of time you're spending answering that question. And then one other thing, this is something that I've used and I always like to point it out because it's a little bit hidden and I always want to make sure everyone knows that it's there. So in the grades tab, there is a message students who feature. So if you click on the little kebab at the top of the column of the gradebook next to that assignment, you will see it says message students who. And then there is a drop down menu. So the one that I have up there is scored less than, and you can put whatever. So I put scored less than 70. It will tell you how many students are going to get the message. I've also used it. One of the other options is for students who did not submit this item. And you can send all of those students a message and say, you know, you didn't turn this in or you scored lower than this score. And you can provide them with resources to help them out, to help raise their grade or explain what they missed on a particular assessment. So just a couple other ideas. Depending on your topic, some instructors I know have had guest speakers in the past, kind of via Zoom, to sort of take the load off a little bit, provide a little bit of novelty. It's kind of something different, a different perspective. If you ask for permission to record it, then you could also use it in future classes. Even if you don't have a guest speaker that semester, you could always provide the recording to students. Student presentations. If students are presenting their work, it can be a learning experience for the students, as well as helping to take a little bit of load off of you always having to be the one that's explaining concepts or providing the material. Exit slips can provide timely feedback to help if you're seeing a lot of students that have the same question. Again, it might be an easy way to sort of address it to the class instead of addressing individually to students. And then this last one I had on a different slide. It didn't really fit. I'm not really sure it fits here either, but I wanted to let everyone know in case you're not aware, when you replicate a course, when you're going to edit the dates, instead of having to click on the individual assignments and click edit and then change the date and then save it, if you click on assignments and click on the little kebab to the right of the add assignment button, you can click edit assignment dates. It'll pull up a list of all of your assignments and little date field next to each one. And you can just quickly click on the calendar, click when it's available, when it's due, and then click save and it'll just adjust them all at once. So that can be a time saver for a class that you're replicating and changing the dates for. All right, so that was a lot of talking. I feel like I'm losing my voice now. Anybody have any ideas or suggestions of anything that's worked well for you, or any questions or comments about anything?
I was just going to mention that I use a text expander for grading that I find works really well. There are a bunch of them, but the one I'm using right now is called Phrase Express.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, and so I'll put and you can give names to each comment. So for example, I have one that's XREP, and it just says, and when I put in XREP return, it expands to something like, you know, see my comments within your submitted PDF. But you can do really long comments too.
Oh, okay, cool. So
yeah, you can put them in the assignments too. Like if somebody submits a PDF, you can pull up the text box for annotation, and then you can just put whatever abbreviation in there too, and it'll fill it in.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Renee, is that an app? Where do you find that?
It's an app, yeah. Phrase Express. So I use Apple goodies.
Yep.
So Phrase Express you can get off of the Apple store, and I use it on my laptop and also on an iPad.
And there's probably a Chrome extension too. I'm gonna guess that you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't really pay attention, but there are a lot of them, and I've used different ones, and they all essentially do the same thing.
right, cool. Yeah, that's something that could definitely save a lot of time.
Yeah, tons. It's really great.
So Ginny, one of the things that I like to do is if a student has a question about a specific grade, I ask them to post that comment on the comment section for that assignment, that discussion board, that test. That way I don't have to go back, because when they communicate, they're not telling you specifically which assignment sometimes, and then you have to keep going back and forth. So if they comment directly on that item, that task, then I can see exactly what they're referring to and save myself the time of going back and forth. And then it keeps the conversation going, because then I reply to it. And then everything for that particular assignment is there instead of emails going back and forth.
Okay, yeah, that's a great idea, because that can, yeah, it get confusing to try to figure out which thing goes with which. And in the inbox, if anyone, and at the top of the inbox, you can actually filter down and pull up submission comments, just in case anyone didn't know that. And you can look and see if any students have responded to your submission comments from there as well, instead of having to go into the individual assignment.
Say that once again, Jen. Where do you find that?
So that's in the inbox, in the Canvas inbox.
Yep.
You can pull up, I don't think I have Canvas up right now, but at the top, there's a little drop down menu. And you can pull it down and it'll say submission comments. And if you click on submission comments, it'll show you any submission comments that students have sent, which kind of makes it a little easier, because sometimes it's difficult to tell if a student has responded to your comment on an assignment.
To get Canvas notifications.
Yes.
Because a lot of times I don't check that, but sometimes the student replies, put the comment in the comment box. I'll get a Canvas notification that will have I can click on to read that particular student's comment.
Yes, and that's a very good point. Make sure if in your account menu in Canvas, you might want to just double check what you have checked to get emails about, because that can help as well, and make sure that submission comments, those things are turned on so that you do get that information.
I also use, in the asynchronous courses, I do weekly Zoom sessions.
Okay.
Usually for an hour, I pick a time that I think students have the most opportunity to participate in. And what I do, the first day of the class, I do it. And that's the orientation, although I make a welcome video too, but the welcome video just kind of is identifying myself kind of thing.
Right.
And then go over the syllabus, and like I do the first day of a face-to-face class. And then usually it's Monday when I do the weekly sessions.
Okay.
And just now I make it non-mandatory. I record it and I upload it to the modules. I also make lecture video or use lecture videos for all the different course, like I have PowerPoints and whatever number of PowerPoints in a week, depending on whether it's a full semester class where there may be 2 or a summer class where there may be, I might have as many as 5 PowerPoints in this, because when you do the accelerate, everything kind of squishes together. And summer is even worse because it's shorter than the
Regular, yeah. All right, yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions or any other comments?
A dumb question. Where is speed grader? I don't see it in my classes. How do I get that up there?
Yeah, so in any assignment, if you click on the assignment in the upper right-hand corner, I should have opened up Canvas before this. You will see, when you click on the assignment, it'll say related items in the upper right-hand corner, and speed grader will be up there. Anything else?
Okay, I see it. Yeah. Thank
You
you.
see it? Okay. And if anyone has any questions about anything in Canvas, you can always let us know. And we'll be happy to, we have all kinds of guides and tutorials and helpful stuff that we can send you.
Jenny, I had a question about exit slips. You were
Yes.
mentioning those can be used for timely feedback. Can you give an example of the context in which they might be used online?
Yeah, so I know some instructors will do just like a quick, maybe like a discussion post or an assignment submission where it'll say something like, what are you still confused about? Or what did you find the most difficult about this assignment?
Okay.
That kind of thing, just to kind of get that immediate feedback about how something went and how students are sort of take the temperature about how students felt about that assignment. Can kind of inform if, in case you need to make any clarifications about the content that was covered for that.
Mhm.
And then can also be good for, informing your instruction for future semesters as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. This recording, or I might have to redo it just depending on how it looks, but this content will be available in the Canvas Faculty Hub in the webinars section, and I'll put the slide deck in there as well. So if you have any questions or need help with anything, you can always email us elearning@camdencc.edu.
Okay, thanks,
Thanks,
Jenny.
Jen.
All right, thanks so much, everyone. You have a great evening.
Thanks, you too.